we probably need to start because we're broadcasting tonight. We'll keep it focused on me till Ms. Caruth finishes a cookie because we've got to get rid of them. Everybody help deal with those cookies. Justin? Charlie? My diabetes says stay away from them. Freddie?
Thank you.
Area Agency on Aging brought cookies. Please help get rid of them. On the end of the counter down there in those black bins. All right. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order because at Mr. Tripp's request, we're broadcasting tonight. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss retail strategies, our partnership with them. I'm just going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Clay Kraft. He's been our rep with them. And Clay, I think if you don't care, can you do a recap kind of what the service is, what we've been getting out of it, where you're at, and then just run from there?
Yeah, we're going to do a full recap.
Okay. All right. Try your microphone over there because if we don't get it recorded.
Can you hear that?
There
we go. Perfect.
Now
I like to walk when I talk, so I'm going to try to stay contained to the desk
all right.
so I can get picked up on the mic. But again, Mayor, Council, thank you so much for joining us here tonight, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we've done. Don't want there to feel like there's been any lack of effort on our part. Just want to be very transparent and communicate everything we've done. So. Without further ado, we're going to jump into the presentation. So, why does a municipality invest money in retail? You have goals. You want to increase your tax revenue. You want to bring jobs. You want to increase quality of life. You want new business. What are the challenges to that? You got to have resources. It's very time consuming. You got to have connections. Retail connections are hard to get, and you got to have the experience. You got to know the types of sites these retailers are looking for. So what we've done is we've surrounded Russellville, as we do all of our communities, with a team of experts that specialize in retail recruitment. So I'm going to take you through the process. We're going to look at the data. We're going to look at the retail market as an overview. We're going to talk about the data. We're going to look at it through the eyes of a retailer. And then we're going to talk about a lot of the things that we've actually done. So most people don't know that retail jobs in America actually are 25% of the jobs in all the United States. The big knock on retail jobs is that they're low-paying jobs. But if you look at full-time equivalent, they're actually higher-paying than non-retail working jobs. So why does a municipality invest in retail? There's been a heavy presence in recruiting industrial to cities, and that's one leg of the stool. But if you look at this graph right here, it clearly shows the job creation and also the tax revenue that's created by retail jobs. So if you look at a restaurant could bring 20 to 25 new jobs to a market, and those have a shorter time horizon than industrial jobs. So it really shows that retail recruitment is actually economic development. But retail is very complicated. We're talking time horizons on these deals, 18 to 36 months. You talk about grocery deals and things like that, your time horizon is very, very much stretched out. The trends in retail right now, things are changing. You look at the top retailers 20 years ago, half of those don't even exist. But they're being replaced by different types of retail. I know there's a lot of scare and things for e-commerce, and we're going to talk about some of the ways that brick and mortar retailers are combating that. But there's no going back from e-commerce. E-commerce makes up about 25% of the growth of all retail year over year, but it's still only 10% of all the retail sales. Things that are defensible retail categories. So, things that you think about the term recession-proof. Well, these are things that are Amazon-proof, so to speak. So, food. We're always going to have our food. That's why a lot of our recruitment is focused on restaurants. Fast fashion. This is the brands that millennials like. It's the nice goods at a lower price. Frugal fashion. Those are your TJ Maxx, your Ross. It's all about having an experience. So you go into those retailers, and it's more of a treasure hunt. Fun. We're seeing a lot of trampoline parks, laser tags, these multi-tainment type deals. These guys are backfilling these large Kmart boxes, these Sears boxes, these old outdated retailers that are going out of business. You see the same thing with fitness. Still can't work out on Amazon. Furniture, frugal food and grocery. That's going to be your Aldi, your Lidl, your Save-A-Lot, and phone. Actually, the electronics is one of the fastest growing segments in brick and mortar because as technology grows, people trust these salesmen, and retailers are spending a tremendous amount on merchandising and training their sales staff. So, most people think electronics are mostly sold on Amazon, but it's coming back the other way, because actually T-Mobile was the largest, fastest growing retailer in the United States last year. One thing that retailers are up against is millennials are now the largest consumer group. And whether or not your market has a lot of millennials or not, it doesn't matter, because they are changing the consumer patterns. So retailers are really having to provide an experience and a showcase to cater to these millennials. If you look at a thing, the new iPhones were announced today. If you look at a simple device like an iPhone, and you think about 10, 15 years ago, all the things that one simple device has replaced. So we no longer have our camera. You use your alarm clock on your phone to wake up. It's your phone. It's your newspaper. You can watch movies. You don't buy external GPS anymore. So all these things that were once sold in brick and mortar locations are being now offered in one smart device. And that's just one example of how retail has been consolidating. So out of that, as the phoenix rises from the ashes, retailers are using new methods. And one is called omni-channeling. That's going to be the big buzzword going forward. And simply put, omni-channeling, think about retailers like Target, Home Depot, Lowe's. They have larger SKUs online than they do in their store. The strategy behind that is they know the consumer wants to sit on their couch and purchase goods like they do on Amazon, but they know if Lowe's can offer you that product to say, hey, you can buy this product from the comfort of your couch, but you got to pick it up in our store. We offer you free shipping. They know that you're not going to go to Lowe's and just pick up that one item. You're going to spend multiple dollars while you're in there and buy multiple goods. So it's all about getting the consumers off their couch and into their stores. But the good news is that 78% of consumers say that they prefer to shop in stores. If you look at the graph on the right, $1,700 a month are spent in stores, and that's mostly groceries, as opposed to $250 online. So most of their dollars are still going towards brick and mortar retail, and that's where we come in. So you guys are the expert in Russellville. We're the expert on commercial retail real estate. Mayor and Jerry have been tremendous. They've provided us every single bit of information that we possibly could have needed during this engagement. They keep us up to date on everything that's on the ground, because we're in Birmingham, Alabama. We're talking to retailers with a national network, and being kept up to date what's happening on the ground every day in Russellville is paramount to what we're actually doing. So you have one way to tell your story. Cities look at their market at one way, and we pick out the pieces that commercial real estate wants to see. So your primary team is myself and Keith Shamlin. The executive team is Robert Jolly and Mead Sales. They formed the company 7 years ago. They combined between them, they've got over 40 years worth of commercial real estate experience. We were actually born out of a commercial real estate brokerage house. We have a sister company that's a brokerage house, so it's nice to have that dialogue back and forth under one roof. And then we have our marketing team below that produces all our marketing. So now we're going to go through our process. So we start from a very high level market analysis. We create a strategic plan, then we actually execute that plan. So on our left is all the subscriptions that we pay for. These are just keeping us up to date with what retailers are opening, what retailers are closing, how they're changing their models. If you talk to a retailer 3 times a month, they're going to change their mind 3 different times. So we have to stay plugged into that. On the right is our data providers, Tetrad, SiteWise. These are the data resources they pull from. And I'll just say about this, we conducted a nationwide search about 2 years ago when we selected Tetrad. The reason we chose them is because there's many ways, there's many data sets, and there's many ways to interpret them. The majority of the retailers are using the same data that we're using, so as long as we're singing off the same page of music, we're giving them the same information that they're looking at, so there's no confusion. But if there's, if the retail world changes, we'll change with that as well. So at our disposal, we have contact information and site selection criteria of over 9,700 different retailers. Within our data platform, we run reports on 3,300 different variables. We run 7 different geographies. That's 3 drop times, 3 radius rings, and a customized trade area, which we'll talk about a lot going forward. And from 87 specific reports. So if you do the math on that, that's almost 24,000 variables you can analyze. So all that's to say is it's very complex. What we do, it's, commercial real estate is all about, Mr. Bill will tell you, it's all about relationships. The first time you send a retailer a site that doesn't make sense for them in a market that makes absolutely no sense for them, you burn that bridge. So you have to be very strategic in your approach, and that's what we do. So we have a ton of research at your disposal. We've got a platform, a project management software called Basecamp. It's where we upload all the information. Over the course of 2 years, you can go on Basecamp and look at every single thing we've ever done. All this research, we update the research on a yearly basis, and all this research is uploaded onto Basecamp. So there's tons of information. We're just going to go over the very quick highlights. So this is the city boundaries of Russellville. These mean nothing in the retail world. Retailers do not see city boundaries. When a retailer is looking at your market, they see it something like this. And I know this is a very busy infographic, but that's by design. So if you start to break it down, it makes sense. So the base layer is pockets of household income. The dot density shows the residential population and the daytime population. And then the radius rings and drive times is what the criteria that retailers are looking for. So I know this is a lot of information, but I want to highlight some of the things. So if you think about a football coach on the sideline, he's got that plastic card attached to his hip. This is your coach's play card right here. So, there's a lot of discussion on the market. Where's the market going? Should we be even recruiting retail? And I'll say absolutely yes. You look at an annual growth rate, 6.5%. Many cities would kill to have that growth rate. You look at another thing like current bachelor degree, 22% across the board. Line of demarcation for a lot of retailers is 20%. They know that an educated consumer has money and they know where to spend it. Daytime population is another thing. You look all across the board. The daytime population increases. That is vitally important for all the restaurants. So with all those factors in mind, it's really no wonder that there's so much retail interest in Russellville right now. I want to talk about this tool. And this is our mobile tracking information. This tool is about a year and a half old, and we love this tool. We're actually introducing this to a lot of retailers right now, and it's really the first way, besides going to a shopping center and looking at the tags that are in the parking lot. It's the first way that you can see a trade area for a market in real time. So what you see here is a composite of the Buffalo Wild Wings, Starbucks locations. We drew a map around those. The Walmart Center, Supercenter, the Valley Park Center, and the Lowe's Home Improvement. And just to simply put, this is basically a heat map showing the consumers that shopped at all 4 of those locations during the periods of July 2017 to July 2018. And now I'm going to break down each individual location. The trade area doesn't change much, and that's a good thing, but there's very nuanced changes if you pay close attention that you'll see. So this is the distribution map for Walmart Supercenter. So the pockets of red is obviously the highest concentration. It goes from red, orange, yellow, green, and blue. So this doesn't mean these consumers are shopping here every day. It just means they shopped during that time. But it is a way that we can show the real-time trade area. So this is the Walmart Supercenter. This is the Valley Park Center. So these are going to be the two main drivers that we're seeing for Russellville right now. Next is the Starbucks Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'll flip back and forth so you can kind of see how Valley Park has a pretty, a good bit stronger pull than the Starbucks Buffalo Wild Wings and Steak and Shake. Really, that whole strip right there. And then finally, the Lowe's Home Improvement. So you can start to see, you've got dots out in Clarksville with pretty high concentration, pulling from Conway. That doesn't say that your core consumer is in Conway, but there are people from Conway that are shopping in Russellville during the previous year. So if you lasso that, this is really, if you kind of back onto that and imagine we'll go back to this map real quick. But if you imagine the loop being so this is a consolidation of all those maps put together. This is what we feel is, this might not be the primary trade area, but this is a justifiable trade area for Russellville backed up by real data and information. And this is what we're promoting to retailers on a daily basis. So now we're going to jump into really the stats behind this trade area right here. 112,000 population in that trade area. Population of Russellville, 29,000, give or take. 112,000 population, 5% growth rate. That's a huge number. 100,000 is a line that moves the needle for a tremendous amount of retailers. And a lot of retailers don't have these capabilities, and we're showing them this information and showing them, justifying it with the data. So all the data from here forward is looking at this customized trade area. So predominantly white, 83% white. We've got 47,000 households within this trade area with a median household income of right at 39,000. Predominantly 35% two-person household. Average housing units, about 142,000. 42,000 of those homes are occupied. Daytime population once again swells. Great trend. Predominantly employed and student. That's really good stats for retailers. Predominantly blue collar, 66% blue collar. I know this is a lot of information. I want this to be dialogue, so if there's any questions at all, please feel free to stop me. Again, I'll highlight here the bachelor's degree within the custom trade area, still a very high percentage, close to 10,000 there. That's just a strong number, and it's a variable that a lot of people don't consider, but it's one that most of the retailers are using now, especially the sophisticated fast casual restaurants. Current year estimated population by enrollment. Obviously, we have a large contingent of college. That's 9,800 population of the college. We also look at the tapestry segmentations. And I'm not going to get into the tapestry segmentations other than talk about tapestry is a way that Esri has basically stereotyped all the neighborhoods in the United States. So there's 63 different profiles. On Basecamp, you have access to all the tapestry segmentations, so you can see what percentage is the highest percentage in Russellville. But it's basically another way that retailers are looking to see, because retailers know their core consumer. They know, they know what their consumers want to buy. So if they can, let's just say they're down to Russellville and 4 other markets. If they can get a site close to their core consumer by using tapestry segmentation, that might make the difference, between them doing the deal or not. So now we're going to talk about the focus categories. You can talk about a retail gap number. I don't like to talk about the gap number as a whole. I like to break it down into pieces because that really tells the story for me. So here we see the largest leakage numbers. And this is for the custom trade area. So in that custom trade area, there's $66 million leaking from that trade area, and that's a big trade area. Usually with trade areas that large, you don't see leakage. A lot of times it's a reverse leakage. And in a lot of categories, there is a reverse leakage because it's so big. But still, there's a lot of dollars to be captured here. General merchandise, $66 million. Health and personal care, $31 million. Clothing, soft goods, $27. Furniture, $17 million. Electronics and appliance, $14. Food and beverage stores at $7 million. And this is another one of our tools that I like to use, and we get a lot of great feedback from it. This is called our peer analysis tool. So what we did here is we took the state of Arkansas and all the contiguous states, and we filtered it down by residential population, daytime population, median household income, and market supply. And it's looking at the 10-minute drive times from the Walmarts in all of these, every city in the states contiguous to Arkansas. So on paper, Hot Springs, Arkansas, Columbus, Laurel, Mississippi, Cookeville, Tennessee, Morristown, Tennessee. From the 10-minute drive time of the Walmart supercenters in those markets, on paper, Russellville is identical to those trade areas. The cool thing about that is on the back end, we get to see what retailers are located in those peer cities. So if you go back and look at here we have 5 peer cities for Russellville. Let's just say that there's a retailer that's located in 4 of these cities, but not Russellville. We can make a pretty compelling case to that retailer and say, hey, on paper, we've identified that you are identical to Russellville. If it makes sense for you, it's something to look at. So if you look at the spread here in the right column, it's hard to see, but right column is gray, the blue column is blue. The left column is blue. Russellville is the blue column. So it says here, I think the biggest disparity, computer and electronic stores, Russellville has 10. The peer average has 15. Full service restaurants, you're under retail by an average of 2 retailers. Home furnishing, the average peer market at 6, while Russellville has 2. So again, this gives us a look behind the curtain and a little bit of leeway into maybe what types of retailers we should be going after based on the data. So 2019 store expansions, we're going to continue to see growth in discount grocery. Really it's the discounters. The middleman post-recession has gotten squeezed out. So people like to spend the majority of their money on lower cost items, but they're also reaching up for luxury items. So you're starting to see the top guys excel and the lower guys excel, and the middleman's kind of getting squished out. We'll still see contraction in bookstores, video stores, office supplies. These are things we talk about that are not Amazon proof. So boots on the ground. This is where we kind of separate ourselves from the data. This is what we did the very first time we were ever in Russellville. This is what I did all day in Russellville. I got here at 8:30 this morning, drove the market for about 6.5, 7 hours, taking inventories of properties, getting refamiliarized with some of the properties that we've been working on for a long time. So this is where we use our commercial real estate expertise and put it to work. So we've got proprietary software on the back end that we log and track all the properties. We're taking address, we're taking contact information, we're noting the retail synergy around who's here, who's missing, and we're making outreach to these property owners. So I've talked to countless property owners. I've talked to 4 or 5 today, and I've got relationships built with these people, and they know and trust us. So when we're looking for home run real estate, we're not taking an entire inventory of Russellville. Russellville is a very large town, but we're going after the 20 or 30 realistic retail properties that we think for a variety of uses. So we're looking at parking. Retailers want to see that high visibility signage, easy access. Everybody wants to be on Main Street, but there's new retail corridors in Russellville that we're trying to promote to bring down traffic and kind of spread the love, so to speak. So this is the current real estate overview. We attend trade shows all across the country, and we're talking to retailers. A lot of times they don't have representation in Russellville, but they do cover the state. They might not know Russellville's market from anything else, but we can sit down with them and have a conversation about the market. And the aerial is a good way to do that, because retailers know who they want to be located near and who they want to be separated from. These are some of the opportunities that we've cataloged over the last 2 years. This is not a comprehensive list, but this is about 35 properties that we've cataloged. We know the ownership information, we have notes on, and we've promoted to retailers. So we talked a lot about the data. The data is a very small portion of what we do. We provide the data to you guys, obviously. We dissect it and use the pieces that we feel are most pertinent. But the top 4 categories that we've gone after and we feel are still the biggest opportunities are obviously restaurants. Restaurants going to be the #1 priority. Pretty much anywhere you go. Soft goods, we still feel like the market's underserved in soft goods. Sporting goods, definitely feel like the market can support one of the major sporting goods concepts, and home furnishings. A lot of home furnishing concepts are coming out of the ground right now. It's one of the biggest trends. That was one of the defensible retail categories. You still can't buy that couch on Amazon. You want to sit in it. You want to sit in that lazy boy recliner before you put it in your living room. So that's one of the fastest growing concepts. So we take the sites in retailer in Russellville, and we match them up with the retailers we have contacts with. I showed the map at the beginning of the presentation. We have contacts with retailers all across the nation. We have, the way our company's broken up, we have teams that cover individual sections of the country. I cover the upper south, southeast, and the lower Midwest. So with that comes a network of retailers. I actually received a phone call this morning from a full service concept that I was working a deal with in Iowa. And believe it or not, she asked me where I was and how I was doing. I said, I'm in Russellville, Arkansas today. And she's like, well, why don't you drive down to Conway to see our new restaurant there? And I told her, when's Russellville going to happen? She said, it could be next. So just a happenstance conversation with a retailer that I was working with in Iowa led to that. And that's just the type of exposure that we're giving to you guys. And sometimes we trip over information like that, but we know what to do with it once we get it. So the last component is the growth, and that's obviously what we're all here to see and what we want to talk about. You guys have entrusted us and placed us in a very unique position. So, the way retail works, commercial brokers represent individual sites. They have a financial duty to those sites. If they sign an LOI, get a lease on that, or, sell that property, they get paid. we get paid by you guys, and we don't have any financial ties to any property in the entire city. So if a retailer says, hey, this site doesn't work from us, we don't just say, okay, have a nice day. We're not going to make any money off of it. We can say, okay, this site A doesn't work for you. We got site B, C, D. Just tell us best case scenario. So we're in a very unique position to talk to property owners, talk to brokers, talk to retailers, and talk to community leaders that keep us updated with what's happening on the ground. And we're just kind of the matchmaker, trying to fit the pieces of the puzzle together. Reporting information, in addition to the retail recruitment, we also want to keep our clients up to date on what's happening on a national level. On a monthly basis, we host retail webinars. We've had some of the biggest retailers in the United States host our webinars, give an in-depth look to once in a lifetime behind the curtain look into what that retailer is doing, where they're looking to go. City sites is another thing we're developing right now. This is our webinars. The city sites is a new tool. This is our marketing guide. You all have that, I think, in front of you guys. This is what we take to the ICSC events. City sites is something we're developing right now for Russellville. We have gotten the cues from retailers and developers especially that it's so cumbersome to go to all the individual cities' websites because they're hard to navigate. They don't have an A to Z development platform. There's a lot of red tape to cut, and they want a singular source so a developer when they go to one of our city sites, one of our engaged communities, they know exactly where all the information is because it's a standardized platform. We're in the process of developing Russellville's city site right now, something we've just launched in the last 6 months. We've gotten some great feedback, and we'll be looking forward to presenting that to you guys soon. In addition to the retail recruitment, that extends to the ICSC conferences. Just got back from Recon in May, had a great show out there. Got some really great feedback on your community. But in addition to Recon, we also attend 15 trade shows a year. So we're talking Vegas, New York, Dallas, Atlanta, Chicago. I'll be in Chicago in 2 weeks representing you guys at the deal-making conference there. Then we've got the Dallas show in January. We've got the Atlanta show in this November. So you're being represented on a national level at least 15 times just at these ICSC conferences. And that's just in addition to everything else we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So ongoing effort, we want to update your strategy. We update the strategy on a yearly basis. We keep you guys updated on the expansion trends and on-demand reporting. We offer that to, I can't tell you how many property owners and local brokers we have generated reports for. We can generate such a specific report, it could boggle your mind. And a lot of people don't have the means to do that, and we offer it as a free service to the local community. So now I'm going to kind of recap some of our recruitment efforts. So on day one, when we engaged with you guys 2 years ago, we come up with a prospect list of about 150 retailers. These are retailers that we thought could fit in the first year. And we want to be lifetime partners with you guys. So we also included retailers that we think if the market changes like this, if XYZ happens, these are potentials for down the road. Over the last 2 years, we've made outreach to over 100 retailers, and we've received feedback from 75 of those retailers, which I've talked to 4 of them today. Local support. Got a great relationship with the owner of the Hastings box. Make no bones about it, we helped him finalize that Harbor Freight deal. That was identified as one of the top targets for us on day one when we engaged with Russellville. But this was a flyer that we made for the local property owner, lives in Conway. This is just a tool to help him and help us, and when we're marketing, he's got additional space obviously in line next to Harbor Freight, and we're actively marketing that to retailers on a daily basis. Development support. Everybody knows about the Russellville Village Center. Over the first year of our contract with Russellville, we spent a tremendous amount of time with this developer. I'll say we went above and beyond. Our CEO got on a bi-weekly call with this developer because we knew there was going to be an incentives ask. This project, these projects don't happen without incentives. It's just the way of the world. But there was a point where we thought there needed to be some guidance, and we were happy to provide that because we want to be we want to be on your side. If a developer asks you for an incentive, we're happy to vet that out and make sure, it makes sense. We want to make sure that everybody feels like they're getting a good deal. So a lot of our first year was spent on this project, and you can say what you want about it. It had a lot of merit, and it died for various reasons, but it was it could have been a really great project. We're a catalyst for retail. We're not out there executing these leases. We do not pry in the brokerage world. We're not out there to take anybody's deal. But the Harbor Freight Tools is a very crystal clear example of what we can do. So, we identified Harbor Freight as a void day one. We've got contacts with Harbor Freight. We contacted them immediately. We found out what site they wanted to be on, and through those negotiations, yes.
Average unit volume of $4 million. What does that mean?
That's their average sales per store. So on average, Harbor Freight does $4 million, 4 to 4.5.
How many stores do they have?
Oh, I don't know how many stores Harbor Freight has. It's probably 200 plus. I'm just going off the cuff right there. I don't know how many stores Harbor Freight has, but
some stores may do 10. Some stores may do
I doubt Harbor Freight does 10.
Some stores may do 3. Some may do 1.
I would say I would doubt. I know where you're going with this, and this store here is going to eclipse that. I can almost guarantee it. I don't have the facts to back that up, but I know how bad Harbor Freight wanted to do this deal because I got to see the deal points and got to review that with someone that's done many Harbor Freight deals. So where we came into play here is the property owner here was very uncomfortable with the deal. Wasn't getting as much offered as Hastings was paying, and that was very uncomfortable. But after reviewing the letter of intent and lease with the retailer, we were able to essentially tell the property owner that he was getting a very good deal, and he was getting a tremendous deal. I'm not sure without that reassurance if this deal would have happened, and that's just an example of the types of conversations that we can interject on. So, do we sign this lease? Absolutely not. We'll never sign a lease. That's not what we do. We're the middleman, moving the pieces around, trying to make things happen. Current interest. I went through our prospect list this morning just to see over the 2 years how much positive interest and influence we've had on the market. Broken out by categories, 11 national and regional restaurants, 4 general merchandise, 2 soft goods, a national auto and tire service center, 2 national grocery stores, our home furnishing concept, hobby and craft concept, jewelry store, bookstore concept, fun and entertainment, national cosmetics retailer, and a national pet supply retailer. We're in active negotiations and discussions with 12 retailers right now that want to be in the market. I know there's been some discussions of, hey, we're Russellville, we've got 29,000 population, we're only growing at a 6% rate. That's kind of an old school way of thinking. I think the way you need to think about this is every retailer that you bring into your market expands your trade area. So we talk about the trade area of 112,000. Every net retailer you bring into the market, every retailer that's going to draw from outside your market, you want to think about your market as a net. And as you grow the retail in your market, you are expanding your trade area. So when we're looking at a market, we're trying to figure out how do we expand that trade area. We can't bring in people from outside. We can't bust people in. You can provide quality of life to your citizens, and that will attract people. Obviously, you can bring industry in, and that will bring more jobs and more people to the market. But we're looking at it as we can bring these retailers in, and if we bring X, Y, and Z retailer in, the trade area will grow with it. So that's how we like to think about it. But yeah, over 2 years, we've got positive interest from 27 retailers, and I would say 10 or 12, give or take, active discussions. I had 4 retailers that had me looking at sites for them this morning, so it was good to get out and drive the market and have communications with those guys. So we feel very positive about the way things are trending, and hope you guys feel the same. I'm sorry there hasn't been communication. I think what we could offer to you guys going forward is, we would love to continue to still have your business. I think want to keep you guys updated, so maybe on a quarterly basis, we provide you guys with a report. and just let you guys know what we're doing. You know, I can offer that as a solution. Yes?
According to their website, they have 900 stores.
Okay, well, that's well above what I said, so. But I'm here to be an open door, transparent. I don't want there to be any doubt about what we're doing. I don't want the investment to feel like it was wasted, because it certainly was not. And I'm sorry that was ever felt, but I'm just here to answer any questions you guys have. And
Yes, Scott, can I ask you a question?
yes,
You know, we have the university in this town, Arkansas
Absolutely.
Tech. That's 10, 12,000 students. We do not do a good job of retaining them over the weekend or retaining their dollar. Do you have any ideas about how we can capture some of their retail capacity?
sure. And you know, we're dealing with millennials there. I think college age students now are just on the tail end of that millennial generation. I don't know what the next one is called, but yeah, retailers are you guys have the last Kmart in the state of Arkansas. At some point, it's going to go. The types of retailers that are backfilling those Kmarts, there are some big boxes that will take that whole, think of it like an at-home. They'll take the whole 100,000 square feet Kmart. But these large property owners, especially these REITs, are looking to get creative in the types of concepts. So I talked about some fun and multi-tainment type retailers. It's all about social gathering. It's all about bringing in breweries. It's things, it's the cool things that kids like to do, frankly. So we've got relationships with those guys. We can target those guys. Is the market ready for it right now? Those things kind of typically happen organically. So are the market conditions perfect for that right now? I'm not sure. You do have a college with a large population. So I think there needs to be some effort catered towards that. And there are types of retailers that are filling.
We have a street called North El Paso that is trying to be developed to a major corridor that connects the college to downtown.
Absolutely.
And I've always envisioned that, bistros and bookstores and things that would really attract millennials as well as the college students.
Yeah, and I think mixed use brings a lot of that. We've had discussions with some developers that were looking to do potential mixed use projects, in pretty close proximity to the college. And I think that's the type of thing that spurs that type of growth. It starts with a mixed use project, or it started in my hometown in Birmingham with a baseball stadium. We built a minor league baseball stadium, and everything grew out from that. So it takes a catalyst of something of that magnitude, whether it's a mixed use with living, and maybe you have a small bowling alley with a restaurant type deal. So that's the type of change that you would have to see, I think, to build that. But typically it does happen. Starts with a catalyst and builds organically from there.
One other just basic question. We don't have a large medium income. In other words, we do not have a lot of expendable dollars
Correct.
for retail. And in my opinion, that's not going to get any better until we create more and better jobs, population grows, more households. I mean, I've always reviewed, I don't mean to say this negatively, but retail is kind of the tail on the dog. You grow and then you get retail. How do you work both ends of that?
And I would you're right. And a lot of times the tail does wag the dog, but we've seen retail projects be the catalyst in these type of situations to change that. 40,000 household income, it's not terrible, it's not great. But you look at things like the daytime population swelling, those are outside dollars coming in. You do have pockets of household income that are relatively high, and you have pockets that are relatively low. If you look at the average, I think you're going to see a lot higher. And we go back to that 20 to 22% bachelor degree. Those are the consumers. So when Costco is looking in the market, the only consumers that Costco sees in a market are the households that make $125,000 and up. They don't care about anything below that, because they know that you make less than that in your household, you're probably not going to pay that membership to shop at Costco. So it's all about targeting the retailers that are looking for the specific pocket. So yes, we are going to get some of the lower class retail. That's just going to come naturally. That's your demographic here. But you also have some positive demographics. You've got the growth rate. You've got the daytime population and the bachelor degree. Those are three things that are selling points. Real estate is all a sliding scale. All these demographics it's just like scoring a site. Scoring a site. If the parking's not good, maybe your access is good. If your access is bad, maybe your visibility is good. So it's all a sliding scale, and you all just have to manipulate those.
There are two particular retail demands I hear all the time. One is a Red Lobster. We don't really have much of a seafood place here. Another one is wearing apparel. And your analysis, wearing apparel, men and women's clothing.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have the household income for Red Lobster or for other men and women's wearing apparel stores?
It doesn't really matter if you have the household income from Red Lobster. Red Lobster's doing net 0, and they have for the last 3 years. They're just not doing locations. They're doing relocations. But Red Lobster, net new stores, they haven't done it in 5 years. So okay. I know there's been some discussions with Red Lobster. I would almost guarantee you that Red Lobster and Olive Garden are the #1 targets for basically every community I work with in the United States. And it's just, I'm going to deliver the message day one. You're probably not going to get it. It's just a simple fact. They're just not growing. That's an outdated concept. We talked a lot about millennials. Millennials are changing the retail landscape. Millennials want things right now. They want it fast, and they want it at a decent price. So millennials will pay $12 for a good meal because that millennial, they don't really care about eating the food. They want to put it on Instagram and let all their friends know that, hey, I ate a cool meal. And that's really all it is. So the casual dining concepts are changing. Okay. And the ones that are not willing to change, Red Lobster, not really willing to change, I think they could rebrand, probably coming out of the ground as something pretty cool and neat and come back to the market. But I think the old-fashioned Red Lobster is just...
One other kind of stupid question. What's the future of brick and mortar retail? I mean, we've got all this e-commerce now.
Yeah.
I mean, I see more smaller boutiques now. Is that kind of where it's going? Or...
I mean, boutiques are always going to be a staple. The mom and pops have to be there to support the nationals. But we talked about in the very beginning, brick and mortar is not going away. There's still consumer preference, 7-8% to shop in brick and mortar. We still want to touch things. I mean, I'm not going to buy this jacket without putting it on, feeling the texture of it. We want to buy things. We want to touch things. A lot of things, yeah, you're buying them the second time, sure, you can buy them off Amazon. But the first time I buy something, I really want to test it out so yeah, brick and mortar is not going away. It's changing. We talked about, omni-channeling and how retailers are getting, I think in 5 years, I think there's going to be, have you seen the VR headsets where you can put a VR headset on? That's going to be a new wave. You're going to be able to put a VR headset. I know it sounds crazy, but we're not very far away. You're going to be able to put a VR headset on and essentially go into a brick and mortar location, and there's touch and feel sensors that you will be able to virtually touch and feel something and try it on. Yeah. We thought self-driving cars were far away. They're not. In 5 years, Walgreens has a plan to use automated cars to deliver goods to your house. So you think about things like Shipt and a lot of these services where you can buy your groceries and have them shipped to your house. Walgreens is going to do it with automated cars. They're going to drop them off at your house, and there's going to be no human interaction whatsoever.
One other question. Is there kind of a tipping point about how large our population needs to get and how large our median income needs to grow to till we kind of reach that point where we're much more attractive to higher dollar retail?
I think you're attractive now. There's retail transactions and interest that's happening right now that is very much under the radar that's going to move the needle for a lot of folks. The Rooster Project, I personally called every single one of those retailers that they had LOIs from, and there was genuine interest there. It wasn't fluff. We all know their anchor terminated, but there was genuine interest from some major retailers. Some of those would have been possible relocations in the market, but there was genuine interest. And I go back to the custom trade area. We show that to retailers. They don't really balk at it. They're like, "Wow, this is good information. We had no idea." So I don't think I think getting hung up on the 29,000 population and 40,000 household income is, I don't really buy into that. I just present other data sets and show the good side of the market.
And in the modern retail world, especially some of the major retailers, I know they probably have their own staff. They have their own people that search the demographics. Sure. How important are you in the retail world? I mean, do retailers really turn to professionals like you, or do they do their own?
They
Yeah.
absolutely do not turn to us. Retail existed long before us and will exist long after us. We are a positive disruptor in the market, though. So, you know, every situation where I've been able to steer a retailer into a market, it was simply because they didn't know about the opportunity or they just overlooked it. So we all have jobs, we all get inundated, we all get very busy. I'm sure there's probably 5 things sitting on your desk that you probably need to get done, but you just hadn't had time to, because we're all busy. Everyone's busy. But if I can bring something, you know, to the forefront and show you an opportunity that just kind of lands in your lap and you can run with it, and at the end of the day you can make your paycheck, that's a win for everybody. So the retail world, the brokerage world exists, the development world exists, the retail world exists. They all have their own channels, they have their own information. But we get paid, you know, we get paid a fee by the city to do this. So there's nobody out there that is taking an aggregate of all the sites in the market, looking at them from a retail perspective, and then choosing the best. When a retailer wants to be in a city, you know, a retailer will identify a region. Let's say they want to open up 5 stores in this region. They'll give seed points to a broker and say, find me 5 sites that look like this. Well, we can come in and circumvent that process and bring it to them before they even get a chance to do that.
Could you put that one slide back up that showed Russellville compared to Hot Springs and
Yes.
all those others?
Yeah, the peer analysis.
Because I think that had that mean annual income of the families on there. And I know some of the stores in those other towns that we don't have.
Yeah, so if you look at the residential population, you know, daytime population, household income, they're all going to be relatively close. So yeah, median household income, it's all within, I would say, $5,000 of each other. But we aggregate all these columns to get you know, at least 5 cities that are you know, peer cities. But like you said, Phil, we do have the data on the back end, and this is just a small segment of the retail categories. But you know, we get a list of all the retailers that are located in all of these markets, and you know, maybe something jumps off the page and say, hey, there's a restaurant that's in 4 of these markets. They're not in Russellville. That's my next call. So
Your custom trade area map.
yes.
I mean, that's one of the things that we've been told, that they drop a pin, they drag it out to the 10-mile or the 15-mile even, or whatever, and they make their decision based on what that population is. But your map showed exactly what we've said forever around here. We draw a lot from outside of that area.
Yeah.
I mean, you're leaving out Clarksville if you stop at 15 miles. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when
yeah,
you
there's-
take this to a retailer, are they willing to accept that, or do they stick with what their desktop has always told them?
A retailer is going to, at the end of the day, they're going to use their metrics. We are trying to show Russellville in a light that the retailer's never seen before. So
Because our trade area is not round.
it's not at all. It's not. You've got geography, you've got topography that plays into that. But you can see. I mean, it's very clear, and this is not made up. This is, and how this is used is it tracks the cell phones of the consumers that are shopping in these locations. So if you have your location services, and it's kind of creepy, if you have your location services turned on when you enter that store, it knows the average nightly home location of that device, which is your house. So, you know, this is real data, and it updates every single night. So we have on a day-to-day basis the real trade area of Russellville, looking at the previous 365 days. And I would say 5 times out of 10, when I introduce this to a retailer, it's the first time they've ever seen it. A lot of these guys have not adopted this; they've not been exposed to it, and we're exposing these guys information for the first time, which is fun for me, because you know we've won over a lot of retailers and got them to take a second look, and that's really all we can do is get the retailer to take a look. You know, give you guys a fighting chance, because you know Russellville is not just being compared to Conway and other markets. You're being compared on a national level. And the retailers, let's say they've got Wall Street tells them we got to have 35 stores. They're not looking in just the state of Arkansas. You're getting compared to cities all across the country, or all across where they want to grow. So you have to, you know, there's just ways you got to frame this to bring it to light to the retailers.
Mr. Kraft, in your little brochure that you gave us here before the meeting, you have listed on the back page of this what you call 10 major employers. How many of these employers have come to Russellville as a direct result of your relationship with the city of Russellville?
I doubt any of them.
Okay.
These are all industrial.
Okay.
We're just retail. So
The reason I ask that is that it was mentioned or said at a previous meeting and touched on again tonight, the quote of retail follows rooftops. Rooftops follow jobs. On the inner page here, this map of this area, you have shown 101 various businesses, not counting, or at least I did not see Harbor Freight, but anyway, 101 businesses that are shown on this map. How many of these businesses have come to Russellville as a direct result of your relationship with the city of Russellville?
how many are open today?
Yes.
Yeah.
These right here. How many of these businesses have come to Russellville as a direct result of your relationship with the city?
Yeah, so the one we highlighted, Harbor Freight, was the only one that we had a hand in. There are,
Okay.
like I said, 27 retailers that we've got genuine interest from, 10 to 12
Okay.
that we're in talks. We talked about at the beginning of this, 18 to 36 month time frame on a lot of these deals. You know, there's
Okay.
so many things that go into a real estate transaction. A retailer can want to be in the market till they're blue in the face. I've got 5 retailers right now that I know exactly where they want to be. There's just not the real estate for them right now. As things change, if that Kmart closes, you know, we're working on active things in the market right now that are not open. So can we put our stamp down and say, hey, we brought 5 retailers? Absolutely not. I don't think that could be the expectation in any of this, but we're providing additional exposure and getting retailers exposed to the market that, you know,
Okay.
frankly, I've never seen it before.
A good portion of this meeting has been spent with your presentation of different demographic information, median income,
Sure.
average level of education, there's property values, all that information that you've presented and collected, compiled, I assume, and presented to us tonight. The very same information, maybe the numbers are a little bit different, are available absolutely free of charge online. And it takes seconds to get that, as I did when you began your meeting. My question to you is, we've already spent with your company $75,000. Or, yeah, $75 million, or $1,000 rather. What tangible, put my finger on services has your company provided to the city of Russellville, to the taxpayers?
Sure.
What tangible service have you provided to us for that $75,000 investment? And part 2 of that question, if we were to continue the contract for another $35,000, what tangible, put my hands on benefit will that provide to the taxpayers of the city of Russellville?
Sure. So we can look at what we've done. Talked about Harbor Freight, average of $4 million. Sales tax collect on that would be roughly $40,000 a year, directly attributed to that one retailer.
Okay, you
So
said
that
$4
pays
million.
for our.
Pardon me, 1 second. Now, these numbers are a few years old, back when they had 800 locations, and their average income per location was $2.5 million. Now, I'm sure that the numbers are different now that they have on their website advertised 900 locations, but still, the average then was $2.5 million per location, some being substantially higher and some being, I'm sure, substantially lower. So until we hear actual numbers from the Harbor Freight people saying, here's what we have done in Russellville, until we see in our checkbook here what taxes we have received from them.
Sure.
You know where I'm going
That's a
with
valid
that.
point, and I think we're probably in a little bit of a dispute about nomenclature here. That 4 to 4.5, and I was conservative on that. That 4.5 is, we'll just remove annual unit volume. The average store sales for Harbor Freight is $4 million. That came from Harbor Freight's real estate director from their mouth to my ears. So it's a real number. I know how bad Harbor Freight wanted to do this deal. which tells me their sales projections were higher than normal because, frankly, I saw the deal points and the economics, and I know what they paid for their lease at the location, which tells me a retailer is not going to do a location like that unless their sales project that rent.
And again, at $40,000 in return on our sales tax.
Estimated, sure.
So we're looking at 2.5 years to get that return back. And that's just with one store.
Sure.
But then we continue to get that $40,000 per year in sales tax as long as Harbor Freight's doors stay open.
Not to mention all the other retailers that we're actively talking to, in addition to the ones we'll also talk to over the next year. The question is, are you better without us than you are with us? And that's really up to you guys to decide. Financially, I think it pencils out pretty easily on paper. Just the return on investment pretty much at least pays for itself year over year. Harbor Freight's not going to be closing that store in the next year, so we can cross that off the board. I think the detriment if we walk away now is the active deals that we're talking to retailers about right now. Who's picking up the pieces on those? I mean, we would obviously we have relationships to maintain, and we would still continue to provide those retailers, but our focus will be on our clients that pay us, and that's
So
just the fact.
if you've got 10 you're courting or whatever it is, and you get one more, then then we maybe get 2 of those.
Sure. And it builds on itself. And we're talking about growing the trade area. And
So what else do we have in Russellville that's doing that for us?
We have the Chamber of Commerce.
And okay, so, and not to put them on the spot, but we put him on the spot and asked him to give us concrete. So let's ask the Chamber of Commerce the same question.
We need to.
We need to do that. I'm doing this, I'm serious.
Well, Mr. Sims, you missed the meeting, but Mr. Harville came and spoke to us.
I was actually informed y'all that I would not be at
Well,
that
I know,
meeting the
but
week before
I'm-
y'all,
I'm-
the
I
night
know.
y'all set the meeting,
I
y'all
know.
knew I would not be there.
Okay, that's beside the point. Point being, Mr. Harville came and he showed us some stuff. He made some talks about shows that he was going to. And so the Alliance is working on, that's part of the agreement we have with them, is part of that is retail as well as other.
Okay, and
Now,
I get that.
productivity, let me finish, please. Productivity, we haven't seen any. Just like he says, we've only seen 1 out of them in 2 years.
And how long has Mr. Harville been here?
Mr. Harville's been working on this retail stuff about 6 months or so. I don't know.
No, he's been here in Russellville, though, how long?
Approximately 2 years.
2 years, and they've been here 18 months,
They both came on board at the same time.
and we've got 2.5 years, we will recoup
I'm
our
just
investment.
answering your question on how many people do we have working on retail.
Okay.
You can say Chamber of Commerce, you can say Alliance, you can say Retail Strategies.
But
and I
then
can
when we
throw
asked
in-
the question
And I
that
can throw in
we,
A&P. That's all I have to say.
the question we asked him, though, was give us point example of how many we can put our hands on. And when we ask the chamber that, and when we ask the others that, and I'm not picking on the chamber does a lot of extra good for our community outside of retail recruitment. I understand that. But at the same time, can they put their hand on a business that will generate $40,000 in sales tax per year over the last 2 years?
And I'll say, I've got a great relationship with Mr. Harville. We share information with him. He shares information with us. I mean, we're in this together. He's our friend.
On the same team.
Absolutely. We're all on the same team. We all have a common goal.
And it
Trust
takes
me,
that whole team to bring all this together.
We want retail in Russellville. We've got a reputation to maintain. We're on y'all's team. You guys paid us. You entrusted us. We're all on the same team. I think one thing we're kind of missing here is 18 to 36 month time frame on these deals. The day a retailer tells us they want to be in the market, let's just say Target says, hey, we want to be in Russellville. They'll be open in about 3 years. So if I have to stand up here and defend that and say, hey, we're getting you guys a Target, they're not going to be open for 3 years before you start, collecting sales tax, and I have to defend against that, I really don't have a leg to stand on. 10 retailers we're talking to, 10 to 12 retailers we're talking to, that I feel confident that a handful of those will open up in the market. They might not open up for 2 years, but we're in active negotiations with them, getting them on the sites, talking deal points, introducing them to local property owners, local brokers. We're making that happen on a day-to-day basis. It's just they're not open.
Question for Mr. Straight. Mr. Straight, if I came to you and bought a lot from you today, and, you know, on fast track, how soon could I get a house built on that lot?
Put what on it?
Put a house on that lot?
Oh, you're talking 6 months probably.
So 6 months on just a simple single-family home. We're talking about something that's, anyway, I think you see my point.
Okay, let me interject one that I don't think we've ever talked about, but I think it might help us with our decision-making. And I'll try not to step on over any boundaries, but last spring, you were trying to sell one of our longtime restaurants that had closed.
Mm-hmm.
You know the one I'm talking about. And I mean, there was one that was supposed to be.
Absolutely. The deal was done.
And then it went away.
And they pulled out 2. They did.
And we have those. That comes up a lot. You've got a hot lead.
Yeah.
We're getting excited.
Happens.
And is there something we need to be doing different? Can you explain and maybe compare us to other cities? Does that happen everywhere?
Yeah,
'Cause
it
we
happens
seem
in
to be
every single
really,
community.
really, really close, and then
Yeah, it happened in another city that I worked for in Arkansas. Same
company.
Same restaurant was going after they were all going after Dixie Cafe's portfolio. They were going to buy every single one of them. They bought every single one of them except Russellville and the other cities. I'm not really sure why. I think the visibility of the Dixie Cafe probably played a lot into that. Not sure if I was the site selector if I would have done that location. So I don't really blame them on that one. The other market, I had no idea. It was an A+ home run site for them. They didn't do it. I don't know why. So, as Forrest Gump says, stuff happens. I mean, it's just nuances of the deal.
You willing to take a question from the audience? I think that.
Absolutely.
Does somebody have a question? Ms. Payne.
Hey.
This is my first time here. I just had a question that may have already been addressed, so sorry if I'm repeating what you've already heard. But so Harbor Freight has an average of $4.5 million in sales conservatively. How are those dollars not being traded from Lowe's and Leonard's and Tractor Supply? How are you drawing in $4 million new dollars in the same people with the same people in a small area? We haven't drawn in more people because Harbor Freight is here.
Sure.
So
You're talking about the
same piece of pie, smaller pieces for everybody in the pie.
Sure.
Why don't you look for industry instead of retail to bring in more people who will hold down jobs, earn money, spend new money?
Sure. Exactly right.
That's an excellent question, and I can answer for myself that I shopped at Harbor Freight before there was ever one in Russellville, and a lot of my friends did too.
So where did you go? Did you go to Lowe's? Did you need something quickly?
I've spent a lot of dollars at Lowe's, and I've spent a lot of dollars at Leonard's, but I still, when I went out of town and I saw Harbor Freight, I stopped in there just like a lot of my friends do.
I mean, Harbor Freight versus Lowe's is kind of like Dollar General versus Target. There couldn't be
Totally
further.
different.
Like,
Totally different.
I don't shop at Harbor Freight typically. It's a lower priced. You get great bang for the buck. I don't think you get the quality there, so it's a different type. They have some great stuff at Harbor Freight. Don't get me wrong, but I just think it's 2 different types of consumers that are shopping. So, but yeah, I mean, we're constantly looking at retailers that. We can do the same mobile data study on retailers that are in Conway. We know that citizens of Russellville are leaving every day to shop in Conway. We understand that. We know that's a challenge. But we're trying to identify the retailers that maybe did their 3rd location in Conway to try to get them to their 4th or 5th location in Russellville. Keep those dollars home. We can't invent new retail sectors or industries. And yes, there is only a certain amount of pie. But again, we're talking about expanding that retail trade area. So if we bring in a retailer, if we help bring in a retailer that even further grows that custom trade area out past $112,000, that's additional money into the market.
And I know where I buy my running shoes too, by the way.
Mr. Kraft, I have a question for you. Your numbers and stuff, your stats that you put up, does that include the university students as far as
The
our
population?
population, our
Yeah, oh,
dollars
yeah.
spent? So what you provided us does include the student population that might not be in our census populations?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we included 9,800 of the student population, which is the most up-to-date, accurate figures that we've been given on the university. So those are included, and they're also included in the daytime population. So if they don't live in whatever geography you're looking at, they're included in the daytime population, and that's just as important factor.
I think some of the concern, some of the hesitation, some of the kind of unsure of the continuing down this path is, are we bringing new things to our community, to our market? Or are we just bringing things to compete with what we already have here? And I think that is a hurdle for a lot of people to understand concept. A lot of us that are decision makers, we don't want to cut off or spite our face. Just the whole everything goes with that. We're a little bit cautious maybe because we have our community now. While we all want it to grow in some form or fashion, or what have we accomplished? Like Ms. Payne said there, if somebody comes in and they've shifted where they're spending their money, what have we net gained there? And I think that's kind of our concern.
Sure. I mean, Harbor Freight was identified as one of the top retailers for us to go after. We're always looking for community input. We've just partnered with a company called Space Jam Data, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but we can do community surveys, and it's linked through Facebook. So we can survey essentially the population of Russellville and find out what the consumers actually want. So if there's things that you guys want, we'll take direction all day. I mean, this is a partnership. Mayor Ward and Jerry communicate with us all the time about things they want us to see, retailers they want us to talk to. If there's input from the council that you guys would like us to go after, we're all about it. But we're looking at Russellville through a realistic lens, and we're going after retailers that we think fit.
Don't get me
We're
wrong.
not going after Six Flags.
I see some benefit from this, but at the same time, evenly weighted, I understand people's caution and concern about it also.
But, yeah, because 2 years ago, I mean, before we selected you, we interviewed 2 others too. And it was all about the leakage, identifying what we're already losing to somewhere else. But the map you showed up, the custom trade area, was based on cell phone pings on nodes. Can you not also do the same thing like in Conway or wherever and show where we're going out of town and shopping?
Yeah,
You've got that.
We've done it, yeah. We've got cell phone tracking because we want to know, when we're talking to retailers, we want to, justify that and say, hey, you're leaking this much to Russellville. You can cut down drive times and you can get we think you've got enough residents in Russellville to support an additional store. So not only pulling from Russellville, you're going to pull far west based on this trade area. So
I talked to a lady at ICSC that probably the same one you were talking about earlier from Iowa. They just opened a new restaurant in Conway, and her advice was tell all your friends to go down there and fill out a card and make sure they know that you were there, and
sure.
That'll give us justification. But I'm thinking, why would I tell my people to go to Conway to eat at a restaurant? If they want us to eat at their restaurant, they ought to drop one here, was kind of my thinking. But I guess that's a valid point. If they know they've got a customer base that's here, is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at probably the most wildly popular retailer in the United States, Trader Joe's. Believe it or not, they base their market selection on Facebook groups. They have a dedicated page on their website that if they get enough votes for people to say, hey, we want a Trader Joe's, they'll actually do a store. Now, there's a lot of things that go into that. But you look at Trader Joe's, it's probably one of the
So everybody watching tonight on Facebook Live, they should go to Trader Joe's.
Earlier, you mentioned the Olive Gardens and the Red Lobster.
Mm-hmm.
What restaurant chain owns them now?
That's Darden.
No, they sold them off. Sold them off because they were not producing as
Darden-
much as they used to.
Darden
Darden
owns
Restaurant
Olive
chain sold them off.
What's that?
Darden Restaurant chain sold them off. I just wondered who you were working with
And Darden absolutely owns Olive Garden. I talked to him last week.
I'm sorry?
Darden owns Olive Garden?
No, it was on national news, they sold them off, so I thought that was rather interesting that when you brought them up, that,
That's not news in there.
well, and the reason being, they sell off, Darden Restaurant Chain is a big chain, and they
Yeah, absolutely.
sell,
Question for
Yeah, they've got 5 brands.
yes, sir?
The only last thing, I'd like to make one last comment. I think this meeting has emphasized one thing, and I do appreciate your effort. You're obviously an expert in this business. I'm not disappointed in you, but I think this city needs to take a hard look at what entities are responsible for creating jobs. All this would be an easy conversation if our population were growing, we had more basic jobs created, and then everything would come natural. Your job would be easier.
Sure.
We would be a more dynamic city, and to me, this just emphasizes certain things that this city needs to do.
We don't get hired by cities that are frankly, cities that are booming and things are happening organically and naturally. We don't get hired by those cities. We get hired by cities that need us. And there's a need here. It's very obvious, and through all the conversations we had tonight, if you kind of self-reflect on that, there's a need for it. It's here. We don't work with Little Rock because Little Rock doesn't need us. We don't work with Conway because they don't need us. So, there's merit to a need, and we fill the void of that need. Whether you think it's worth it or not, that's totally up to you guys. But
Mr. Mayor, we have someone with a question.
yes, sorry.
Yes, sir. State your name for the record, just to get it on there for you.
Justin Keller. This is on and on. In past discussion, I heard that there was a conversation about potentially Aldi coming here and then deciding that it was too far out of their closest distribution center's radius and so on and so forth, which made me think automatically, well, it sounds like we need Aldi's distribution center here in addition to the store. I completely totally agree that we need to grow industry here for those jobs, and I would love to see retail grow at the exact same time. What are the chances that an opportunity like the Aldi's example, where you would be able to spin in that way, be like, okay, well, that's too far out for the store. What about looking at it in another way that would then be able to expand their footprint at that point, serving all of us?
Are you talking about recruiting at a distribution center? Or
Yeah, no, I'm saying like when you get into a situation where you talk to Aldi's, and I know you guys are just strictly retail, right?
Yeah, just retail.
So like when you talk to an Aldi's and they say, well, a distribution center's not close enough, would you ever say, like, as part of what you're doing, is like, well, that might be a good area to put one?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Aldi agrees with it. Why wouldn't they want to be here? Aldi's doing, probably 100 locations a year. They've got a German competitor that most people know about called Lidl. They are trying to outrace Lidl. Lidl's got a plan to do, 1,000 stores over the next 10 years and try to outpace Aldi. So Aldi has they're very cognizant of that, and they want to keep their foot on the throat of their competitor. So, yeah, would they love a distribution center? Absolutely. But, that's a logistics thing. That takes time down the road. And distribution is something that we're not going to overcome at our level.
Now, is that something that, like, when you come across this information, you automatically go back to the council for them to know this? And should we go to maybe the Alliance or go to the chamber or something like that to explore that area again? Is that something that's automatically communicated with the council?
Yeah, so our contract is set up because we are, I've got non-disclosure signed with a lot of retailers, and there's a lot of things that I simply can't share. Our contract is set up that we have a point of contact, and we share that information, and then that information is disseminated to the council as they feel appropriate. So we report to one, in this case 2 people. That information has to be disseminated from there. We want to be very transparent with what we're doing to the extent that we can. The 10 or 12 retailers I'm talking about right now, I can't tell you who they are because I'm not gonna kill a deal for them, ruin a relationship. I'm working in maybe 4 other cities with these retailers. We've got long-standing relationships, so there's things that can't be broken.
So, where you're able to do that information?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is there a limit to the number of users we can put on base camp?
The more users, the less information that I can put on there. Just simply because there's just some things that can't be shared at certain times. So I hate it. It's like that. It's just our business is very confidential. I'm going to protect my relationships because my relationships are going to carry me throughout my entire career. And I'm not willing to burn a bridge just to.
Yeah, I understand.
I've got a duty to keep you guys updated on what we're doing. But at the end of the day, I want to share just enough that you know exactly what we're doing, but just leave a little bit to, to the imagination. And then once it happens, we can say, here's what we did.
Jerry, you want to add something?
He said we'll have 2 points of contact. Don't we have Mr. Harville on that point of contact also?
Mr. Harville has been recently added to base camp after recon. So yes, Mr. Harville is. Yes, that is correct. Thank you, Jerry.
I'd like to make one more comment. I agree with Mr. Keller here. We have an airport that we don't think about it, we can land cargo planes. I thought distribution needs to be, transportation needs to be an integral part of the city's planning. Anyway, I appreciate Mr. Keller's comment.
Yep. Ms. Payne again.
I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
I know you're doing a great job. I just want to say that leakage has been happening since I was a little girl in Russellville, going to Little Rock. That's what we do. Shopping is entertainment, and it's going to happen. They do it, in the cities outside any larger city. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Dinner, movie, go shop. It's going to happen. But I don't think that we should try to improve our city at the expense of people that are already living here. Because the local merchants will not survive just continuing to bring in big box stores. Do we want to have Russellville just be surviving off big box stores and big chain restaurants, or do we want a unique city that has a local culture and do citizens thrive on supporting each other that are here?
Thank you. Anybody else? All right,
Mayor,
Mr.
I would like to, I'd asked you to have this recorded or so forth, because I would like to give Mr. Harville a chance to review it after our last conversation with him, and then come back and have a conversation with him before we kind of chart a course forward.
He'll be back next week, right? Good. And I know he's not watching because he told me where he was going, there was no cell phone and not even a phone in your room. And I thought that sounds like that's a vacay. All right.
I'll just say our contract expired with you guys a month ago. We're continuing to work in good faith. I've got trust in you guys that we can continue this relationship going forward. I hope you guys see the same. Until further notice, we're going to keep working forward on what we're working on, and I hope we can reach an agreement to move forward, because we want to be partners with you guys for a long time. I see a lot of good things that can happen here, and we want to capitalize on that. So I really appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the questions, everyone. It's very, very good discussion. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank everybody for your attendance tonight. We'll stand adjourned.